Hello everyone, this time period is between 1900 to present day history. Scientific research after the 1900s revolutionized how people thought, lived, and interacted with nature. The first key concept in this time period begins with science in the environment. We see that the Green Revolution sparks agricultural production worldwide. Norman Borlaug, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, was credited with saving billions of lives by developing high-yield cereal grains, hybridized seeds, synthetic fertilizers, and pesticides. Also, the environment was changing drastically due to the large amounts of fossil fuels being used for industrialization, especially in the US. Our second key concept is global conflicts and their consequences. We can see from the previous time period that Europe gains a lot of power due to imperialism and maritime exploration. They dominate global and political order. However, this will change as we move further in this time period. We start this period with the Great Depression taking place in America due to the stock market crash in 1927. In just 3 days, stocks lost $5 billion in value. This affected the people of America greatly, putting a dent in their economy. However, globally, there were far more things to worry about. The idea of nationalism became prominent in this era and was the driving force for many world wars. Many large powers such as France, Great Britain, Germany, and the United States promoted nationalism to their people by using propaganda, advertising, and patriotism to inspire their people to go to war. This was one of the several causes of the World War I. These nations believed that this was the only way for them to show how much superiority they had. Also, after the British had gained most of the territory in Africa, it was difficult for a country like Germany to colonize Africa because most of the land had been occupied by other powers. This sparked tension between Germany and Britain. Shortly after World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, bringing an end to the war between Germany and the Allied powers. This treaty, however, put Germany in debt because they were forced to pay a large amount of money for war and therefore became vengeful. So, not long after, a Second World War sparked due to Italian fascism in the 1920s, led by Mussolini, Japanese militarism and invasion of China in the 1930s, and of course, the political takeover in 1933 of Germany by Hitler and his Nazi party. The US declared war on Japan after the Pearl Harbor bombing because Japan was allied with Italy and Germany, and both Italy and Germany declared war on the US. Also, as the Soviet Union and Germany were rising to power, leaders such as Stalin and Hitler became powerful. The war eventually grew to a nuclear arms race and then was brought to an end before it became too dangerous. However, soon after, the World War began to split among capitalism and communism. This was the beginning of the Cold War. This was indirectly fought between the USA and the Soviet Union through proxy wars. For example, the Vietnam War and Korean War. President Truman used containment in other areas of the world to stop the spread of communism. The Soviets began to weaken as Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in the Soviet Union. He promoted freedom of speech and the practice of owning private corporations with his glasnost and perestroika reforms. This eventually led to the decline of the Soviet Union, making the US the strongest power at the time. The independence for countries that left the Soviet Union promoted nationalism for other colonies imperialized by Europeans. This began many independence movements, or better known as decolonization. For example, leaders such as Gandhi and Jomo Kenyatta led independence movements for their countries due to their governance by the British people, allowing them no economic freedom. This was done by either violent or non-violent movements. These movements were how India, Kenya, Ghana, Algeria, and many other nations grew into the free countries they are today.